Hello and welcome to Newsmakers on CHCH Podcast. I'm your host, Louie Butko. And as the calendar turns to February and the winter blahs officially set in, and you need to get out of your funk, while Hamilton's Winterfest might be exactly what you need, officially kicking off tomorrow and running right through Family Day. This year's festivities will bring concerts, crafts, drag and dancing, theater, fashion, and so much more, including Winterfest Pop, taking over Jackson Square, featuring 10,000 square feet of interactive exhibits, including toys and action figures, video games, and so much more to trigger that nostalgia. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. And to discuss further, I'm pleased to be joined by the festival's producer and owner of Cobalt Connect, Jeremy Freiburger. And Jeremy, I think I dressed the part for the winter blahs, but you have a solution here.
I've added some jazz for you. Yeah, every year we have Passmore Handmade, which is a friend of ours, Rebecca Passmore from Stony Creek, who can crochet a hat in minutes, make these awesome toques for our staff and volunteers. We went a little kooky this year with some tassels and a pom-pom. And so if you arrive at the festival downtown, if you see people wearing these, you know it's one of our team.
Let's talk a little bit about the history of the Hamilton Winterfest. We were just saying this is something that goes back to the 70s.
Yeah, it's one of the oldest festivals in the city. So it started in the late 70s, 76, 78, depending on who you talk to. Primarily neighborhood organizers saying, like, I want to do something for my neighborhood. Let's do hot chocolate in the park. So I think of events like Gorley Park Festival or the Dundas Rotary Club Festival down in the driving park. So those organizations have been doing this stuff for a long time. And the city's job was kind of to just help market it a little bit, sort of help them with their permitting and stuff. And then in 2019, the city brought us on through an RFP process to help grow the festival and sort of take it to another level kind of thing. And we've helped win some awards in the last couple of years. And it's now 70 some odd events across the city, with the hub and pop being the core downtown.
This is personal for you, right? I mean, this is something that when you look at, culture is a word we use a lot these days, but this is something that really gets to celebrate from each corner of the city over a full month that, again, a lot of people typically associate with the blahs.
Totally. And it's funny, like, I've been involved in festivals my whole life, but I've never done one that runs for 3.5 weeks and is, everything from lacrosse and curling to crocheting classes and French story time, And so it's a cavalcade of things to help organize, and but it's fun. Like I said, I've been involved in the culture world my whole life. So getting to do something where every year I learn about organizations and events that I'd never heard of myself, because they're now part of this sort of cluster of things for Winterfest. So it opens my eyes to the crazy variety of stuff we have in this city.
We'll get more to the Winterfest in just a second. Let's talk about you here. And
Sure.
What is it, first of all, what is it about this city that you find your passion for?
That's a great question. I've gone away and come back to this city a bunch of times. I lived in New York for a while. I was in and out of Toronto for a while. And something always pulls me back here. I think it's partially the scale of the city. We're not a Montreal or a Toronto where you feel like you can get totally lost. Our scene is big enough yet small enough that you can have an impact. And I think about projects like you had mentioned earlier, like the Cotton Factory. When we started the original version of that, the Imperial Cotton Center, it's now in the hands of another great team. But I don't think I would have been able to do that project if I were in Toronto. There would have been bigger institutions doing that kind of work. So I've always felt like it's a city where if you've got some wackadoodle idea, the resources are usually there to cobble together to make it happen. And then we've also been a city for, decades and decades and decades that have produced amazing creative talent. So as a producer, I get to work with musicians, dancers, painters, whatever, like public art people. There's all of those things are at your fingertips. So you're not held back by creativity in this city. Mm-hmm. So it's, I don't know. I think it's that ability to actually do things and not get hit with piles of red tape or mega institutions that are holding you back.
There is this nice juxtaposition of that blue collar, and especially the Cotton Factory, which, again, a project that was near and dear to you. I worked at the Tiger Cats had an office on Sherman, like on the Hope of Land. So, I'm known for going for walks during the day. So I'd walk past the Cotton Factory there. And it is one of those things where, first of all, the industry history of that area and to be able to reinvent yourself, which is sort of what Hamilton is doing itself as a city.
For sure. Like when we started the Imperial Cotton Center for the Arts in 2004, our neighbors were the Hells Angels, and there was a Burke's plant or a Burke's like money transfer place and a garbage dump, so we were like, why are we here? But the bones of that building, inspire you to do things. And I think, like you've said, like that connection to doing work, like to hands-on labor in this city, I think translates really well to the arts, because most artists, though there are loads of digital artists, and even those, are working with their hands to go from idea to thing. And I think manufacturing is very similar. So that we've gotten the chance to repopulate some of those spaces. We've done 7 or 8 buildings in Hamilton, most of which were former light or heavy industrial buildings that are now turning into something new. And it takes me back to this moment when we did Doors Open at the Imperial Cotton Center, 15 years ago or something. And I got a radio call from someone over the radio saying, there's this elderly woman down at the front door who's crying, but she really wants to talk to you. And I was like, oh no, like what's gone wrong? And I got there and I met a woman who was probably in her 80s, and she worked there as a kid when it was a cotton factory. And she was crying because she was seeing her heritage sort of being erased by a new thing, but she was excited to meet the young people that were part of that flip over, right? So I think it is that sort of passing of a torch in this city, not that industrial or manufacturing work is gone, but it's taking a different shape now.
Do you think the arts and culture scene is underappreciated, A, by people outside of Hamilton, but B, people who live here too?
Underappreciated is a tough word. I think it's still to a lot of people unknown. It's funny. We go through waves of this. There was, a period sort of maybe 10 years ago where I started doing a lot of work out of Toronto, doing consulting work and stuff based on the success we had here. And initially people were like, oh, you're from Hamilton. Like, welcome to a real city, And then that shifted to like, oh, I had a friend who just moved there. Is it cool? Like, what? Tell me more, but you're really from there. And so I think the outside community, like beyond Hamilton, has a better sense, honestly, of the excellence of work that's happening here. And as more people from Toronto and Ottawa and Vancouver and stuff have moved here over the last decade, the flavor of that work has really changed, and the flavor of that understanding of the city and our art scene has changed. But I still think there's mountains of work to be done to communicate with the population that lives in the upper city about what's going on downtown, and a better I think there needs to be better connectivity with the whole Mountain Ancaster area as well, of getting more facilities up there so that the culture's in their backyard, just like it is downtown.
Well put. Let's talk about Hamilton Winterfest.
Sure.
We mentioned it officially gets underway tomorrow, February 2nd, and that is that stuff going down at Jackson Square.
Yeah.
This is really cool because there's nothing more trippy than nostalgia.
Yeah.
And that's what you got on full display at Jackson Square this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. We've got 2 elements at Jackson Square. So what opens tomorrow is Winterfest Pop. So we took over a former bank space right across from TD Bank, right on King Street, 10,000 square feet, and we filled it with some craziness. We've got a giant Garfield that's the centerpiece of this wall covered in 500 teddy bears, a collection of over 200 Care Bears from a friend of ours, Paul Ilya. We've got these micro collections from people that are in our city that collect G.I. Joe and My Little Pony and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We've got a 6-hole mini putt course designed by local young architects. We've got this old rocket ride that kids can get in and ride, but while they're on it, behind them is giant images from the James Webb Telescope from NASA, so they're literally flying through space.
Yeah.
It's a jukebox. We got a 1963 Wurlitzer jukebox and filled it with all local musicians. We had 45s pressed of all their music, so you can hear new music on an old machine. So it is like, you're right, it's this total nostalgia fest, and we thought that was going to be fun for people. It's winter blahs, it's challenging economic times or whatever, so come out and just do something silly and fun, have some pizza, and it's like a Chuck E. Cheese-esque something.
Yeah, there's like the video games. There's
Totally.
Retro Ontario's got a full room of 70s, 80s, 90s TV shows that you may have forgotten. And Retro Ontario is just one of those classic follows that
absolutely.
as soon as you watch one, it just kind of hits you right in the feelings for nostalgia. So with the tickets, it includes. For this one, it includes
so for Winterfest Pop, it's $20 for an adult, $15 for students or seniors, $10 for a kid, and that includes your pizza and your cotton candy when you're inside. And then all of the games and everything inside are all free play, so you don't need to bring 700 quarters. You can just come and have a great time.
And there is also an adult-only kind of the 19 plus
Pop after dark. There's loads of time for families and kids to come, but we know that people like maybe in their 30s or 40s, even their 50s, sometimes want to come out and have a night without the kids. So we've got Clifford Brewing down there that night, so you can buy a beer and wander around and enjoy all this stuff and take it in without having the kids nearby.
So that starts, that of course is going down starting tomorrow, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. and then all through the 19th. Do I have that right?
That's right.
Okay, perfect. Very cool. So that is one element.
Yeah.
What's the other element?
And then the other element's the hub. So we've moved the hub around for the last couple of years. And last year we landed on the roof of Jackson Square. And as like a festival producer and someone who's lived downtown for a long time, so many people don't know about the rooftop. Or if they do know about it, they're like, oh, it's a wasteland. I haven't been there forever. It's an awesome space on the roof. So we commission 6 or 8 artists this year doing giant light installations. We've got Tanis MacArthur, who's every year makes a giant inflatable for us. We've resurrected her giant, like massive, like 20-foot tall inflatable icebergs, but now she's made this 30-foot long inflatable narwhal. Filled it with lights. It looks crazy.
Awesome.
And then there's like an old fountain, and we've got an artist, Rhoda Medhat from Toronto, who's made this crazy plexiglass fountain thing. We've got one of those anamorphic pieces, like if you stand in the right place, it looks like something, and then as it moves, it turns into something else. We've got a stage that's got, we've got 3 free concerts. So we've got If You Do It Louise and Wax Mannequin on opening weekend. We've got LT the Monk on the closing weekend. We've got the Frost Queens drag show coming back with Ilona Verily as the headliner with House of Adam and Steve. That's a fantastic event. We've got Love and Lights, which is our big Valentine's Day party. And then Family Day is just totally bonkers. It's a partnership with the library and the AGH. And last year we set a record for the number of people that went into the AGH in one day. We had over 6,000 people through. So that's all free. It's just come out and have an amazing time. Grab a slice of pizza, grab a hot chocolate, and wander around.
And then to your point, I mean, it's really throughout the city. It's in every corner. Something's going on. You got a full list of
Ancaster,
everything.
Dundas, Stony Creek, up on the mountain. It's all over the place, and you can go to hamiltonwinterfest.ca, and there's a calendar of events, and you can just explore and find what you want to do.
What's your favorite part of these next 2 weeks? I'm sure like so much work goes into what we're about to see in the next 18 days. It's going to go by in a blur.
It will,
as it always does. But at what point do you think, or have you found yourself in previous years sort of stopping and really just enjoying it as you can? Is there a point throughout the week where you can?
We'll get that, like Steph, Steve, and myself, kind of the core team, and Kim. We'll probably have that moment maybe on like the 12th. We'll have that moment where like both elements are running, people are having a good time, and at that point, after all the work that folks like you do, the media, of getting our audience to us, that's when we start getting these messages from people that have come to the event. And I remember one in particular last year, a mother who came with her daughter. Her name escapes me right now, but she sent us this message saying, I really hoped that I could get like 45 minutes with my daughter of like just having fun and not having a freak out or whatever. They spent 4 hours at Family Day, and she sent us photos of her doing every single thing. And she said, as a single mom downtown, a free event where I can get 4 hours of enjoyment with my daughter is absolutely priceless. Those are the moments that hit us and say, this is why we do this stuff.
Looking at downtown, there's going to be some things happening, obviously. Sure. There's an entertainment complex coming in. Tim Lywicki in town a few months ago to put shovels in the ground at First Ontario Centre. There's going to be some challenging times, too.
For sure.
What is going to be the key to getting out of those challenging times and fighting through and the construction and LRT, there's going to be some struggles.
There are.
What's going to be the key to make sure we come out of it on the other side?
We've had that conversation a number of times, and actually after last year's Winterfest, we pulled together Allison and the team that run Jackson Square and said we had a great time, and Greg from the Chamber and Jason and a handful of folks from the city, and said, we know this is all coming, and it's all surrounding Jackson Square. How do we not have this become a huge problem? And we said the solution is the rooftop of the mall. It's an amazing programming space that connects to the art gallery, connects to the library, connects to transit all around it. And it's an amazing programming space year round. We have to make that a world-class space up on that rooftop. But then I also think of like all the BIAs and the connectivity downtown James North. We need to work so hard with the brick and mortar merchants of those streets to make sure that we have done everything we can as a city to still make it possible for them to function. We cannot lose all those small businesses. They are too important to those neighborhoods and to those families. So we need to find fun ways. There's all those alleyways hiding behind the International Village BIA. We've got to make those spaces people want to go to. We got to fill them with public art. We got to find cool benches. We've seen it a million times in other cities, right? We've seen what places like New York and other places do when they pedestrianize spaces and make them fun again. We have to make a huge commitment to that during this whole construction period.
Is it harder because of the history of Hamilton? Because pre-amalgamation, everybody feels like they have their own identity, and even in Hamilton, like even in downtown, you think of like Concession or Ottawa Street, and these neighborhood associations. Is there what needs to be that unifying factor to really bring the city together and to have it reach its full potential?
I mean, how long do we have?
Go for it. I mean,
it's a big challenge. And, I grew up in Ancaster, lived downtown through my 20s and 30s. I now live in Stony Creek. So I've seen that flavor of each community change. And we're seeing that conversation now around affordable housing and what it means in Stony Creek versus what I would have said downtown. And, there's challenge in this city, and amalgamation hasn't been easy. And I don't think for any of the big cities that got amalgamated in that sort of sweep when that happened. And I think we have to find the resolve as a community to say we're all on the same team. That if downtown Hamilton, King and James fails, downtown Stony Creek's going to fail. And if downtown Stony Creek fails, so is downtown Dundas. If all of these things slowly get picked away at and eroded because they're not on the same team, it's going to be really easy to defeat us. I think we have to rally together, and we have to take those sort of key geographical institutions, whether it's BIAs or major corridors, and departments like ECDEV and whatnot have to work together to pull those things together as a group. And we also need to spend the time to try and think equitably, right? It's really easy when you try and say, big picture, we're going to just keep the big picture going, that you lose sight of neighborhood needs and whatnot. I think the city and places like the Community Foundation have done a really great job of laying a foundation of big city and neighborhood level stuff. I think we need to delegate more authority to neighborhoods and whatnot, and find ways to resource them to make decisions and expedite action as opposed to the onslaught of planning that happens. I think we need to get on with doing more and getting into, and what made James Street North successful in that 90s to early 2000s run where we saw the major resurgence was that it was affordable enough that all of the artists and actors in that neighborhood could try things and we could fail. And that was okay because the risk was low. But I think the key thing is what we were doing. We'd wake up every day and do. We had no idea whether it was the right thing to do, but we were doing and trying and interacting with the public until we found things that worked and things that stayed. I think that kind of thinking and focus on action has to be citywide.
Well put. Jeremy Freiburger, where can people get more information when it comes to Hamilton Winterfest?
HamiltonWinterfest.ca is the website, and you can find us on every social media platform except the crazy one.
You're still looking for volunteers?
Absolutely, we are. Always looking for volunteers.
Same website if you're interested in volunteering?
Absolutely.
Appreciate the hat here.
Yeah.
Is it backwards? I
don't know if there's a front or a back. Okay. They feel great everywhere.
Okay, good. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Jeremy, for doing this. Thank you for watching. We really do appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe to CHCH Podcast so you never miss an episode of this show or any of the other great shows we have for you, including the Trending Now podcast, which you can catch a brand new episode with myself tomorrow right here on CHCH Podcast. My thanks to Mike Corsten for directing today's episode. And one more time, thank you for listening or watching from all of us here at CHCH. I'm Louie Butko. Have a great day.